So what we're going to talk about today is the question of the existence of God, and this argument that I want to discuss is actually really similar to the banana argument that we looked at in that video that I showed you last week. Now, the banana argument is an extremely poor version of the argument that I'm going to show you today, and I'm going to try to make today's argument a stronger version of that. All right, we're talking about the teleological argument for the existence of God. It's also called the argument from design. It's an argument that most famously was put forward by Thomas Aquinas, and then after him, it was made very, very popular by someone named William Paley several centuries later. However, it's also been discussed by people like Immanuel Kant, and you'll find versions of it you'll even find one version of it in the Bible, although not a version that's philosophically sophisticated. Now, I'm going to give you two versions of the argument from design. The first version I'm going to call the machine version, and the second version I'm going to call the purpose version. The machine version, they're both really, really simple to understand. What you have to do in both cases is start by looking at the world around you. And you need to ask yourself a question. And this is actually the question that the biblical writer thinks he's answering, although, as I said, the Bible provides no evidence for anything in philosophy. That's important to realize. So quoting the Bible or criticizing the Bible to discuss an argument for the existence of God will be committing a red herring. The Bible has no relevance to our class, believe it or not. That said, it's interesting just to show that it's that old, this argument. So I've put up the quote right here beside me so that you can see it. Essentially, the machine version of this argument is to say, or is to observe, that the world is very, very orderly and well organized. Every part of the universe seems to interact with every other part of the universe in a way that creates a single common unit. So the bias in the biosphere, the rain falls on the crops grow, the water goes into the soil, produces the crops. It also drains off into the rivers and the lakes, where it then rises again into the sky and falls again on the crops. And you have this cycle, which is unbelievably complex and which has to be explained somehow. And the question is, how do we do so? Well, think about a machine that we might make. Think about something with cogs, or think about something like a car, where every part of the car comes together to produce the entire vehicle. If you look at a car, you realize that there's no way this thing could have come about simply by chance. The car can't have been produced randomly. It can't be just a fluke. When you look at the car, you know that the car was designed by someone and produced by someone. It was designed and it was built. Similarly, a house. You can look at the house and you can say the house was designed by someone and built by someone. And so you have that obvious observation. This is my dog. Echo, come here, side. Come on. Echo, side. Come on. Echo, assis. There's my dog. This is my dog. He might as well be in the video. And he can be part of my explanation here. Because if you look at the car, you see that the car is a functioning whole, and every part of it comes together to produce what the car does. Well, if you look at my dog is a functioning whole. And off he goes. I don't know if he likes being called a functioning whole. He's a functioning whole. Every part of him contributes to every other part of him. So that when the dog is eating, he's fueling himself so that he can run. But he can't run unless the muscles and the tendons and the heart and the circulatory system and the brain and everything else work together like a machine. Well, hold on. There's a principle here that proponents of the teleological argument want you to remember, and it's not a dumb principle. It's something that's worth remembering, and that principle is similar effects have similar causes. If you look at something and you see that a certain thing is happening and it has a particular cause, then it is reasonable for you to assume that a similar cause must be taking place if something similar is going over there. So, in the case of Echo the dog, if his body is a fully functioning machine where everything works together, including the fuel and everything else that goes into generating the activity of the animal, if everything works together in that kind of a way, well, why am I not suggesting that his creation is similar to the creation of my car? Why am I not suggesting that if the car had to be designed and made, then so too with the dog? That's essentially the basic argument of the mechanical version, the machine version of the argument from design. Except that when you're looking at a dog, when you're looking at a biosphere, a planet, a solar system which works together with mathematical precision, a galaxy which works together with mathematical precision, when you're looking at all of these things together, they can't have been produced, we say, by just anybody. It must have been some being powerful enough to have done it, and that being we will call God. Now, the second version of the argument is similar, but it goes in a different direction. The similarity is it's going to use the same principle. Like effects have like causes. Similar effects have similar causes. But we're going to talk about purpose. Now, not for nothing is the design argument called the teleological argument. The word teleological is from the Greek word telos and the Greek word logos. And it's the knowledge of purposes. Right? Telos is purpose. Logos is knowledge or word or science or study, or it has a lot of deep meaning. So when we look at that, we can see that there's another argument, and the argument is from purpose. If you look at William Paley's argument, you can see it. William Paley looks at a watch, and he says, imagine you're walking down the beach and you encounter a watch in the sand, and you look at it and you recognize it for what it is. Or imagine you're walking along the street and you see a car on the curb and you look at it and you recognize it for what it is. You would not imagine that the watch had come about by random means, not only because it's so complex, not only because it's a complex machine, but also because the watch has a clear purpose. The car has a clear purpose. The watch's purpose is to tell time. The car's purpose is to get me from A to B. Right? And you can look at other things. What's a computer for? A computer is a highly complex machine intended for all kinds of things, communication, data processing, and so on. What is the explanation for these? Well, the explanation is someone designed them with a purpose, incorporated that purpose into them, and then created them. Similarly, when you look at the universe, you can see elements in it that appear to be purposeful. Why does life exist on Earth at all? One of the reasons life exists on Earth is we have a big moon and we have big planets further out in the solar system. Why do I care about those things? Well, it's been demonstrated that their gravitation has protected the Earth from the destructive force of meteors and comets striking our planet and making life impossible. As a result of the existence of Jupiter, Saturn, and the Moon, attracting these objects, blocking them from the Earth by their gravitation, life has been made possible on Earth. And we know that a meteor strike or a comet strike can destroy life on Earth because it's believed that that's what destroyed the dinosaurs, by wiping out almost all life on Earth, one meteor hit. So we have this very purposeful, apparent element to the solar system, to the elements of the solar system. If I think that my watch or my car and their purpose, if I think that the purpose they exist for indicates design, Similar effects must have similar causes. Therefore, I must assume that those elements of the universe that seem to indicate design must have a similar cause. Now, you can add to that the fact that the universe, as I mentioned earlier, is mathematically explainable. The universe can be mathematically explained. For example, think of a Fibonacci sequence. Fibonacci sequence is something like, well, it goes 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, and this is a sequence of numbers that is found throughout the universe and creates the form of just about everything in it. Your face, spiral galaxy, the things that we appreciate in art, the structure of the petals of a flower or the way a tree grows are all connected to this, can all be shown to adhere to this Fibonacci sequence. How is it possible that we can consider that it's a random sequence of events that have led us to the existence of the things in the universe, when the things in the universe all appear to be based on a similar design pattern? This is an argument that you will find very frequently being brought out by proponents in the contemporary world of something called intelligent design, which is similar to the basic teleological argument that I'm talking about right now. In the theory of intelligent design, they talk about similarities in things and how they appear. It appears that things like the Fibonacci sequence seem to indicate this deliberate design and creation of the universe. If that is right, if that holds water, it is thought to be evidence for the existence of God. And so we have that as well as something further to think about. Now, what I'd like you to do is to think about the argument from design as it is, and then think about that banana argument that we looked at. And next class, I'm going to be asking you to criticize the banana argument, knowing now what the actual theory of the design argument looks like. And I'd like you also now to think about the kinds of criticisms you can come up with for the design argument. See if you can break it down. It's not perfect. I mentioned that Immanuel Kant talked about it. Yeah, he did. He thought it failed. He thought it was a bad argument. And he's one of the deepest thinkers we know, right? But on the other hand, Thomas Aquinas, also one of the greatest philosophers in history, thought it worked. Lots of people are convinced by it. It's thought to be one of the strongest arguments for God's existence.